Okay, go ahead whenever you're ready.
Okay, we did chapters 2 and 3. We have characters first. Tom is not loyal, he has a mistress, and it says that on page 24. He's abusive. He punched Myrtle in the face. On page 37 it said Tom Buchanan broke her nose with his open hand. Myrtle is Tom's mistress and she gets her nose broken. Mr. and Mrs. McKee. Catherine McKee is Myrtle's sister. Page 28 says, I'll telephone my sister Catherine. She's beautiful. She lives in an apartment on the top floor with her husband, Mr. McKee. That's on page 29. On page 30, it gives her description as a slender, worldly girl of about 30, with solid, sticky bob of red hair and complexion powdered, milky white. She has thin eyebrows and wears jewelry that jingles and draws attention. Mr. McKee is a pale man and in touch with his feminine side. And Mr. Wilson, he's Myrtle's husband. He's kind of old, and on page 27 it says they backed up to a gray old man.
And then we had Jay Gatsby. And he's a generous man, and the evidence was, when I was here last, I tore my gown on the chair, and he asked me my name and address. Inside of a week, I got a package from Courier's with a new evening gown in it, and that was on page 43. And then he was intelligent and rich. He went to Oxford, and then the evidence was he told me once he was an Oxford man, and Nick said he could see nothing sinister about him.
So the symbols, I think, were the ash farm, which is kind of a port area between New York and West Egg, and it's where people are pouring their houses, I guess, look like ashes. I think that's more of a figurative thing, but yeah. And then Gatsby's party, which was extravagant and had an orchestra, and like there was a lot of alcohol, and he had a bar at the party. So it just kind of symbolizes the lifestyle of the 20s and the Jazz Age. So the questions that we had were, who is Tom's mistress and what entertainment is at Gatsby's party for level 1? Level 2 is what kind of person is Gatsby and how do people treat money? And level 3 would be, why do people not take care of their money and why do people enjoy parties? A few important lines we had: making a short, deft movement, Tom Buchanan broke her nose with his open hand, showing how abusive he is. And then also, I was in the 7th Infantry Division until June 1918, which shows that Gatsby was in the war, which may explain for some of his outer behavior, since war can affect people quite drastically.
Okay, these are the sketch notes. And the valley, the Ash Valley, is between West Egg and New York. And these are the spectacles of George, I think is his name, and the billboard, and then the ashes, and all the shovels that shoveling the ashes. And then the train that goes through West Egg and New York, or like through the valley. And then the apartment buildings that Tom and Myrtle stay in, so like to keep their affair private, are in New York. And there's a lot of money in New York, so I put dollar bills. And then Tom bought Myrtle a dog while they were in New York, and then the McKees are over there, and they drink a lot of alcohol. And for my third sketch note, I didn't have it, but like I didn't bring it. But it was a big sketch note of Gatsby's party, and it had like a big pool and orchestra, and then a lot of money obviously, and then booze, stuff like that.
Give him a round of applause. Wait, stay up there. Throw up your thing again. Okay, anyone have any questions for him? Good representation. Questions? Okay, throw your thing up there. We're going to talk a little bit. Put your PowerPoint back up. I have a few questions, which are not necessarily just geared at this group. You can jump in. Okay, let's go back to your beginning. You kind of have to, I'm going to ask you to kind of flip through. Okay, so go to your first character. Isn't that the first thing? The next slide, yeah, just go through it like you're reviewing it. Okay, so here you have Tom. Okay, so Tom Buchanan is an important character. You're talking again that idea of loyalty, that he has a mistress, this Myrtle. Okay, now remember Myrtle also has a husband. Do you remember what Tom says to kind of, I don't want to say it, make it seem like his getting Myrtle out of the Valley of Ashes is a good thing? Okay, that's something, do you remember?
Did you say your husband was bad, or kind of?
Kind of like her husband ignores her, and that it's good for her to get out. This is when they come to the station, and Tom is talking to Myrtle. Myrtle sends her husband back inside to get something, and they kind of talk in whispers. And then Tom turns to Nick, who doesn't want to be there, and says, you know, it's good that she gets out, don't you think? And so he kind of makes it seem like what he is doing, there's a reason for it. This idea of having another man's wife as his mistress. Okay, here we see again, it's good that you brought up this thing, Tom breaks her nose. Why does he break Myrtle's nose? What happens that causes him to do that?
She kept saying Daisy's name.
And what does he say?
He told her to don't like mention his wife or something, and then he got mad and pushed her face.
Yeah, okay, does that seem, what do you think about that?
I think it's kind of like aggressive, like a little overdramatic, I'd say.
Yeah, and maybe even a little hypocritical. I mean, here, he's having an affair on his wife, but he doesn't want his mistress to mention her name, like Daisy is above her. Do you remember what Nick learns about, because remember, Nick has told, when Nick came in chapter 1, Daisy and Tom were asking him, you know, they thought he was engaged to someone back home, and what's going on with that, and is he getting married? And he's like, no, I'm not, you know, I didn't want that, I'm leaving that behind. And Nick comments that, you know, if Tom can't get along with Daisy and wants a mistress Myrtle, and Myrtle doesn't like her husband, because that continues to go on, why don't they just get a divorce, you know, and move along with things? And do you remember what he's told?
That Tom's wife was Catholic.
And do you remember what Nick says?
That was a blatant lie.
Yeah. So obviously Tom has told this story to Myrtle, but it's a lie. So why would Tom say that to Myrtle? Does Tom have any intention of marrying Myrtle? Yeah, probably not. Okay, let's go to the next one. Okay, so we have Myrtle, Tom's mistress, breaks nose. So tell me about Myrtle. What's she like? Okay, we know that Daisy has passionate lips. She's thin. She's kind of wispy. She's got this low, soft voice. Makes you lean in. What's Myrtle like?
Heavier, I think.
Okay, she is. She is heavier. Okay, she is sensuous in a heavy set way. She's got a little more flesh on her. Okay. Think of some of her actions. She wants that puppy, right? So they stop for the puppy. What kind of magazines does she pick up when they leave the station where her husband works or owns? What are the tattlers? What are those? Can you think of anything like nowadays? Okay, when you...
Those gossip magazines.
Gossip magazines, right. When you go to the grocery store, those magazines in there, the Inquirer, you know, inquiring minds want to know, gossip of others. They're like low, trashy magazines. This is not high-level reading, right? Okay, so what else do we know about Myrtle? What kind of makeup and perfume does she buy? Daisy wouldn't have that. She's a different sort. Where does she go to buy her stuff? Where do they stop? She's got a list. She makes a list. She's got a list of things she's going to buy. Does she go to the makeup counter at Macy's? Now, where's she go? Okay, she's going to the drugstore. Okay, so this is at that time to imply to you, she's getting cold cream at the drugstore. This is not of Daisy's quality. So they're trying to draw, a difference between the two people, the two ladies. When Myrtle's at the apartment in New York that she and Tom keep, or that Tom actually keeps and keeps Myrtle there, how does Myrtle act?
I think kind of louder and more.
Okay, louder.
Didn't it say that she gets like more obnoxious when she drinks?
Okay, yeah, that's something you should notice throughout all these chapters. All these people get a lot more obnoxious when they drink. Myrtle kind of starts putting on airs. She talks about how she told the boy to bring up the ice, how she talks about these people. She changes her dress, and then she goes, oh, it's just nothing, and she's going to give it to Mrs. Is it McKee? Is that the lady's name? Okay. Okay, so go to the next one. Okay, so Mr. and Mrs. McKee. Okay. What's his job? What does he do? What does he keep talking about? Yeah, he's a photographer, right? He keeps talking about that. He's taking pictures of all these things. We get to meet Catherine, who is Myrtle's sister. Now, okay, I'm a little confused here. Okay, okay, go to the next one. Okay, I think you need to revisit Wilson, the husband. I don't think he's really old. I'm not sure. You might want to go back and look at that backed up to a gray old man. He might be covered in ashes because he works in that valley, and that might be the problem. Tell 27. Okay, so 27 is talking about the dog salesman. Oh, yeah, because you have the same book I do. Okay, that's something you want to take a look at, because I don't believe he is old. I don't want to get the wrong impression. So let's talk about, why did Myrtle marry her husband? She feels like she got duped.
Did you say she thought he was like a gentleman, but then it turned out not to be?
Yeah, a gentleman and had some money, right? She found out on their wedding day that he borrowed his suit. He couldn't afford it, and she feels like she'd gotten duped. Like, he didn't tell her the truth, or she would never have married him. Okay, let's go on to the next one. Okay, J. Gatsby. Yes, the idea, remember when it talks about he told me he was an Oxford man, but remember what Jordan says after that?
That she doesn't believe it.
Yes. There are a lot of things about Gatsby that we need to look at. Okay, he's a generous man. Okay, so the whole idea of the evening dress for the other girl. He's generous, but read what it says after that. He wants to make sure that there's no trouble at his place. He didn't want anybody calling the police or suing him or anything like that. And that's one of the reasons, as soon as he finds out that the gal tore her dress, he makes sure she gets another one. Okay. So he's throwing this lavish party. Do you remember what his saying is? Old sport, yeah. He calls everybody old sport. Okay. When Nick says he could see nothing sinister about him, about Gatsby, why does he say that? What has he heard? What are some of the rumors that are floating? Okay, there's a rumor that he killed someone.
There's a rumor he was like a German spy.
There was a rumor that he was a German spy. So people don't really know a lot about Gatsby. There are all these rumors floating around. One of them being that supposedly he went to Oxford, which Jordan doesn't believe. She doesn't know why. She just doesn't think so. Let's go to the library. So there's this old guy in the library. He's looking around and he's amazed that the books in the library are real. What's the point of that? He keeps going out like, wow, they're real. They're real.
Well, he seemed a little crazy, and also he said he was like drunk for a week or something.
Okay, he's drunk and he's in there trying to sober up, but he doesn't know if it's working yet.
Honestly, may be surprised because he may have thought that like Gatsby just put the books out there to like show off.
Yes.
But they're actually real.
Yes. Gatsby is putting on a show, or so we might think. This is on page 46. Well, it actually starts at the bottom of 45. If you want to follow along, it says, so the old guy, they call him Owl Eyes later. He's a stout middle-aged man with enormous owl-eyed spectacles. See, he said, it's a bona fide piece of printed matter. It fooled me. This fella's a regular Belasco. Do you know, did anybody look that up? Belasco, who is that? Who are they referring to? Okay, I did because I didn't know. He was an American theater producer who was very famous at that time. So he's making an allusion to that Gatsby is producing a show here. It's a triumph. What thoroughness, what realism. Knew when to stop too. Didn't cut the pages. But what do you want? What do you expect? He snatched the book from me and replaced it hastily on its shelf, muttering that if one brick was removed, the whole library was liable to collapse. And then underneath he keeps going on. I've only been here an hour. Did I tell you about the books? They're real. And he keeps going on like that. The whole idea that we don't know a lot about Gatsby. Everybody goes there, but nobody really knows him. Okay. Yep.
And with that, he's also like later in the party standing alone while everyone else is socializing, I believe.
You're right. He doesn't drink. He stands alone and he watches everything as it goes on. As the music plays, he watches everybody's reaction, and there's no girl leaning on his shoulder. Every other guy has a girl, but when the music stops, but not him. That's a good observation. Okay, let's go to your next slide before I go on. Okay, before you go to this, let's go back to the party. What are all the men and women, the wives and the husbands doing at the end of this party?
Trying to see if they want to leave or not.
Okay, and is it a pleasant discussion? Mm-hmm. No, they're all fighting. Because, women want to stay, the men want to go. Inevitably, if they're fighting so much about leaving, it comes down to what Jordan has said that was one of the paradox examples on figurative language earlier, that idea that she likes a big party because they're so intimate. Nobody knows. You can blend into the crowd. You know, nobody's really gonna, you don't have to really be yourself or be real. You can have a show, right? When the husbands and wives go home together, they're going to have to face one another, just the two of them. And it's much easier if you can just avoid one another and blend in with other people. Fitzgerald is really getting at the excesses of this time and how horrible they are. This is not a pretty book. Okay, which leads us into the symbols. When you're talking about the ash farm, the Valley of Ashes, and even pay attention to the billboard of the eyeglass guy that overlooks everything, that's staring there, watching it, but not doing anything, not really seeing anything. That's part of this too, that nothing is really done. People are seeing it, but not making any moves to change it. The Valley of Ashes, you have East Egg, you have West Egg, you have the affluence of New York, and then you've got the average working class Joe working in the Valley of Ashes, where things are, you know, this is where the coal is produced, and there's ash all over the place, and, you know, it's not a healthy place to live, basically, is what he's saying. You can think of industrialization. Okay, go to the next one. Okay, yes, the party. The extravagance is important. The alcohol, the jazz, that sort of thing. Okay, let's go to the next one. Okay, so who is Tom's mistress? We know that's Myrtle, right? What entertainment is at Gatsby's party? There's a whole list, right? They've got the orchestra. They've got people doing stunts. I mean, it's lots of things. Okay, so go to the next one. Okay, so what kind of person is Gatsby?
We really don't have much to go off of.
So he's mysterious, right? What else?
He likes to be alone.
Okay,
Not alone at the same time.
okay, so how do you support that? Yeah, I would agree.
Because he stands at the top of the staircase with no one around him, but there's a party going on right around him at the same time.
Yeah, huge parties. He wants everybody to come. People don't even wait for an invitation. If there is a party at Gatsby's, they go. That's the place to be. They can have a good time. It's like an amusement park. But Gatsby himself, we haven't learned of any close personal connections that he's had with anyone that would reveal anything about him, right? Okay, how do the people treat money? Would seem so, right? And they really flaunt it. Even when Myrtle is with Tom in New York, she puts on this air that she's not poor. She does what she thinks the rich would do. You know, she waits for the special cab even. She doesn't pick any taxi. She picks like the purple one. When she sees the dog, she wants to buy it. Notice the dog isn't a certain breed. It's a mutt. The guy's trying to pass it off as a breed, but it's not. You know, she talks about giving her dress away. Very flamboyant. Okay, go to the next one. Okay, level 3. Why would people not take care of their money? How do people use, is that what you're getting at? Like, how do people use money, or what were you getting at with that question?
Yeah, kind of the idea of with the jazz age, like why don't, because, you know, it's generally everyone tells, you know, it's smart to save your money and invest and stuff, but people still spend it anyway, so why do people just still spend it without any care?
And that's both good points. They have a lot, right? It's nothing to them. That idea that to the very rich here, things are expendable. Even people are expendable. That, you know, while you have it, spend it. You got it? You know, they're not worried. They have so much that they're not worried about losing it. They don't know what it's like to not have money is part of it. Okay, so why do people enjoy the parties? What were you getting at with that? That's a good one too. Why do people go to parties? Why do they enjoy them?
Just kind of because things can get crazy at parties and stuff as well, and like there are problems with the party as well, and if people get drunk and like the people that married couples fight at the end and stuff. So.
Can you lose yourself in a party? Yeah. You can become someone else for maybe those hours that they are, you know. Okay, go to the next one. Okay, important lines. Making a short, deft movement. Tom broke her nose with open hand. Okay, why did you choose that? You had talked about that before, but I think we need to revisit that.
It's the kind of biggest or most, what's the word, it really shows off the most about Tom, how he can kind of be cruel and a brute and controlling of people. Very
much so. It reinforces that part of his character, so it's a good line for characterization. And Gatsby was in the 7th Infantry until June 1918. Why that?
Because it shows that he was in the war, and also that I just think that's important because war can change people in drastic ways because of how horrible it is.
Nick said it changed him. He was in the Great War in Chapter 1.
It shows a connection that they share.
Right, it does. And this is probably the first thing really that we find out from Gatsby about himself that he really reveals to us. Okay, let's go to the next one. Okay, and then good sketch note. I think you explained that well. Okay, I had a couple of other things I think that I wanted to hit on. Oh, Jordan. Okay. What do we learn about Jordan? Page 57. Toward the end, we learn that Jordan, according to Nick, is a liar. On page 58, it says she was incurably dishonest. It's probably one of the reasons she likes being in the crowd of the party. She finds that intimate because she can hide there. No one's going to question her lies. It says, Jordan Baker instinctively avoided clever, shrewd men, and now I saw that this was because she felt safer on a plane where any divergence from a code would be thought impossible. She was incurably dishonest. But to Nick, it made no difference to me. Dishonesty in a woman is a thing you never blame deeply. So he kind of thinks that women are normally dishonest. Okay, at the end of this chapter, there's an accident. There's a car accident. Okay, so this is 58 and 59, the chapter ends. And then he talks about Jordan driving after the first accident, and how Jordan is a bad driver, that she ought to be more careful, Nick says. Either you ought to be more careful or you oughtn't to drive at all. And that's conversation. She says she doesn't have to be careful because other people are careful, and it takes two to make an accident. Suppose you met somebody just as careless as yourself, he said. I hope I never will, she answered. I hate careless people. That's why I like you. Okay? All right. So let's talk about a little bit about carelessness. That's going to be important in this book also. I want you to think about which characters are careless, like you talked about with money. Some people were just careless with their money. The people in this story can be careless with money, and they are sometimes careless with other people. We've certainly seen them be careless with their relationships, that sort of thing. So I guess, if you have anything you want to input on that matter, go ahead. Otherwise, I'll just have you think about it. Okay. Any other questions? Something that you're confused about? No, we're good? All right. Good job. Good job.